Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 94 of Push2Plat. I hope you are well. How can you not be well? The games are so good on whatever you're playing. It's my pleasure today to be joined by a good friend, a very good friend of the podcast, the tech lackey of the Discord, gamer extraordinaire, advocate for the PS5, and of course the point-and-click genre. I am talking here of ZadorVp. How are you this morning, sir?
Hi, I'm doing fine. How are you?
Yeah, look, I can't complain. This has actually worked out quite well, I think, the timing, hasn't it? Because it's not crazy early for you there, is it?
Yeah, it's 9 a.m.
Yeah, and this is sort of, this is getting close to my bedtime. An old man, as you know, Zador, 6 p.m. But you know, I'm gonna stick with it for an hour or two, so we can chat, because we don't often get to chat on opposite sides of the world. So what we're going to do today, listeners, is we are going to dive into a couple of big games that have been requested, particularly Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I know Zador has the platinum, or has both the platinums in this game. We'll talk a little bit about save transfers as well. We're going to touch on Hitman 3, another game that he has platinum that I know nothing about, Zador, so I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, good.
And of course, we'll touch on many of the games he has been playing as well. But before we get into all that, Zador, I thought we could take a quick look, and we were talking a little bit before we started, but it was wonderful to see that PlayStation, have rolled out the red carpet here. They're giving away 10 games for free, games to play at home because, for the pandemic, I suppose, here. Now, we're just saying that you actually haven't played any of these 10 games so far, is that correct?
Yes, as far as I remember, I haven't played any of them.
Yeah, so we're looking at, if you're under a rock and you haven't seen, there's Res Infinite for the PSVR, VR only, Abzu, The Witness, Enter the Gungeon, Subnautica. That's a quick plat, Zador. It would disgust you with command prompts, although it's not an easy one. Good luck with that if you are going to attempt that. Moss, the PSVR, Astrobot PSVR, Paper Beast PSVR as well, and then Thumper can be played VR or not. It's a rhythm game. Do any of these games interest you, Zador?
Yeah, the VR games interest me. I had planned to get Moss and Astrobot at some point, but now I'll get them for free, so that's nice.
Yeah. I saw someone make a comment, and the name eludes me, but it's like, well, if you just wait long enough, all the games will eventually be free. And I sort of looking down this list, it's probably pretty true, isn't it? None of these games are what I'd call like, freebies or just like giveaway games. They're all proper full games here. So it's quite a decent effort. I think you're going to love Moss if you haven't played it. It's a platformer in VR. It handles incredibly well. You won't find any motion sickness in there, although I know you suffer from none anyway. The same with Astrobot. I'm going to be interested if you do play Thumper in VR. That's an out there experience, Zador.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, and then this one I hope you do play. I picked this up ages ago, and this could be for trophy hunters in particular. This could be of interest because I haven't looked into how this play at home works across regions other than it's free. But this Paper Beast does have 2 stacks, an NA and an EU. It's a 3-hour plat in VR. It's actually quite decent as well, a walking sim with some puzzle elements, and there are guides available. So I'm not sure. I don't think you have to have PS Plus for this, Zador. I don't know if you know.
I didn't really read the details.
No. Look, you know less than I do, which is wonderful. Wonderful. So, I don't know how this exactly works, and I'm, of course, not advocating you to rip off the mothership that is Sony here, listeners, but, there are 2 stacks of this game, and if they are free, and there is somehow a way of doing that, I'm sure the guide writers will tell us, or those YouTube guide writers in particular. That could be something to look out for. But, look, Zador, why don't we jump into games, because that's what we're here for, and I want to start with your latest completion. This is a wonderful game, Chicken Police. Can you tell me about this?
Yeah, so Chicken Police is like it's a film noir game with anthropomorphic animals, and like humans are mentioned in it, but they're like mythical beasts. They don't exist in the real world, so everyone's an animal instead. It's pretty interesting. It touches some subjects like racism with like insects versus animals is mentioned, but not really the focus of it. So the focus is it's a murder mystery at the end, but it starts as like threatening messages sent to one of the characters, and you play as this chicken from the Chicken Police, which is just like a name given to two chickens who work together, and somebody wrote books about that, and that's how everyone like knows their legend, even though those books are basically fake.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very interesting and funny game.
What I loved about it, and I've only played the first section of the game or whatever, but there's some really good voice acting in this game, isn't there? Well, it fits the part, I suppose. But that chicken or that rooster or whatever it is at the start, it's really portrayed as this hard drinking, like old school detective or private eye or whatever he is. Still detective, still in the force, isn't he? But it's got this thing, and it's got the voluptuous feminine character there or whatever for her employer or whatever, trying to suck her off the case there. And it's just right from the beginning, it just captures this whole sort of Hollywood style crime drama, I suppose.
Yeah, the main character is he's basically been retired, but not officially. So he has like 121
Mm.
days before retirement, but he also can't work cases, and he's not allowed in the police department.
I like this. Now, it isn't a particularly long game. I'm not sure. Am I right in thinking it's around like sort of 4 to 5 hours, or is that a stretch for it?
Yeah, I think it was 4 to 6 or something like that.
Good. Now, I know there are guides available, but I'm sure you didn't use them. How sort of linear is this? Is it fairly easy to progress without any sort of outside assistance, or?
Oh, I used the guide.
Oh, you're being honest.
Yeah, uh, it has some missable trophies technically.
Has a
You'd
lot.
have to do
Yeah.
a whole, yeah, you'd have to do a whole full playthrough if you don't get them when you're supposed to get them, and some of them span the whole game.
Mhm.
And there's also collectibles which are missable, and locations you can only visit during a certain section of the game by ignoring the main mission, and if you don't go to them, then you can't go to them anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so guide, yeah.
Yeah, no, look, I don't blame you at all because I know there's a huge number that are missable or whatever else. What I wanted to ask you is I got a couple of well, I'm not going to say a couple of hours because that's a lie. I got a couple of minutes, a good couple of minutes, Adol, into this, and I got into the police station. I had a hilarious laugh at the dog police officer or dog detective or whatever else. But then straight after that, it moves into the shooting range. Now I believe there's a trophy associated with that. I'm guessing that's the hardest trophy in the game.
Yeah, the 5,000 points, that annoyed me a lot. I don't really like any of these mini games they throw in games that don't need to have them.
Yeah, that is annoying too because I think you have to get it at that time, don't you? It's not something you can come back to later on.
You do visit the shooting range later, but I don't know if you can interact with the game at that point.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad that you played that because when I saw that was on your list, I thought, oh, I definitely need to go back to that. I want to throw back to a slightly older one that I've played as well. I think this is a game that you intended to play for some time. I mean, it is a walking sim, no disrespect to the term, of course. State of Mind. It's a highly narrative game. A father and a child. It's very minimalistic in its art style, futuristic in its setting. How did you find this?
Yeah, I found it very interesting. The story is great, and most of the characters are interesting, and everyone is basically flawed.
Yes.
uh, I really like the amount of playable characters it has, because you start with two, and then it just keeps increasing.
Mm.
Um, and the two worlds that it represents both are very interesting. One is really dark and like everything's wrong there, and then the other one is idealistic, and they have like earthquakes, and then everyone's just like, that's normal,
Yeah. Yes.
nothing
Yeah.
wrong
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. What I like too is, and I know there were some trophies associated or whatever, I think, with it, but there was also, I love these games that just have little things in that you can do that, they're just there or whatever. And I'm thinking here, it has the piano in the room and you can just tinker with the piano or whatever. It's not directly related to the story in any way. It's just a piece of furniture, I suppose, in the modernist apartment. But I love little things like that. Now, I understand because I haven't finished it yet. The trophies do branch though in this game, don't they? Is this just a case of making a save and then choosing the other option with certain articles and things, or is this a game that needs two playthroughs?
Yeah, so it technically requires a partial second playthrough because there's two game spanning trophies which are for being the best father and being the worst father, and those require doing certain actions between chapters, so you'll have to start from the beginning again and replay to the part where the trophy unlocks. That's the only one that requires a second playthrough, because everything else you can just go to the menu and then load the game.
Yeah. Now I want to. I mean, well, first off, do you recommend playing it? Was it good?
Yeah, I recommend playing it if you can tolerate pointless puzzles, because all the puzzles in this one are pointless and unnecessary. But it makes sense because the developer likes to throw those in. Just like how they love those trophies that don't make any sense, repeat this action this many times when nothing
Yeah.
changes. They just love those.
It's a funny game because I remember it's been out for a while and it hasn't been on sale much at all. Maybe it's starting to become on sale or something. So if you do see it out there, listeners, and you're interested, state of mind, it's worth picking up on a sale, Zador, because I think they sell it as about a half or three-quarter price game at full value. So you have to make your judgment, I suppose, listeners, on whether you find that valuable use of money. I think this is a perfect opportunity, Zador, to dump into this other game that I want to talk about. This Square Enix one, the Twin Mirror. Now, we sort of talked about the fact that you like point and clicks. I mean, you also play, well, I was going to say you like narratives, but you play a bit of everything. And there's a lot of multiplayer here I see lately as well. But that's the natural move, I think. How did you find this Twin Mirror? Were you as taken with it as I was? Because I got the impression that perhaps you were not.
I mean, I liked it, but I also like to point out games being janky and poorly
Yeah.
made.
Well, that's what I love about them.
Yeah. Like State of Mind, the story is very interesting, and I guess you could say it has multiple playable characters too, even though it's just the same character in different versions. But
Yeah.
yeah, I liked it. And the gameplay, it felt like a combination of was it Remember Me, and
Hmm.
then the Life is Strange gameplay, a bit of that, just combined but made by the not AAA team they have, the
No.
ones making the real Life is Strange games. But yeah, I liked it.
It's funny, this game, because last week we'd sort of lined up an interview with MZ Nitro was going to come on as a guest, and then there's just a bit of technical difficulties on all sides. So unfortunately we couldn't get that. But for some reason I'd backgrounded this game for that interview, which I'm not sure why, because I think he hasn't played it. Maybe I was going to talk on it or something. But what's interesting about this game, Zador, is I think that it's going to fly under the radar. It released in November, the 20th of November. So, not at a great time with things like Yakuza and Assassin's Creed and Immortal Phoenix Rising and all these things just around the corner, including the PS5 as well. But it released, as you said, with the second tier team or whatever, and it was co-published by Shibuya Productions, mainly into anime and visual media, Japanese visual media or whatever else. But the game has an interesting story because it took them a long time to make, Zador, and they went through very many different sort of iterations to come to its final form. And they were actually, I don't know if you know this, but they were basically pushed into pushing something out, and this is what this sort of happened. And I think as you play the game, there's a lot of moments where you see that there could have been more depth or there could have been more. And I think they sort of ran out of time and potentially money a little bit. But having said that, I think the game is worth playing. I want to ask you, the game, again, it's a sort of a detective noir style of thing. You return to a village, or you're a reporter, or whatever village, your hometown, as a reporter, and you sort of get into investigating your good friend's death. And there's a bit of incestuous family relations and all these things going on there as well. But one of the interesting things about the game is the investigation style in the game, or whatever else, and this move between the physical world and the metaphysical world, if you like, the subconscious, and this dream palace world, or whatever else. How did you find that mechanic? Because Life is Strange, and yes, that's the main team, they've always leaned into these sort of supernatural powers, or the bending of the reality a little bit. Here it was a clean break or whatever, but it was done in such a way that it could be seen as part of your psyche or your subconscious, I suppose.
Yeah, it's interesting. At the end, they obviously have this choice about what kind of person your character should be.
Mm.
um, and that's related to what you were just talking about, the two different gameplays.
Mm.
Um, it kind of works, but also I'm a bit curious about how he could just simply change to not be logically thinking or rationally thinking.
Yes.
Why can't he be both? Because apparently it just affects his relationships. He can't be both.
Mm. Mm.
I don't really know. that's a bit,
Yeah.
contrived having to pick.
It sort of comes back into that Telltale thing, and obviously we're not going to spoil it here, but there's a scene towards the end with the car accident or whatever, and we'll leave it there, but you need to recreate it. And one of the things that I found is I thought, oh, well, here there could be a bit of variation in the way you recreate it, and perhaps it'll lead to some variation in the ending. And it doesn't really, because it forces you into the correct path. And then even at the end, and there are multiple endings or whatever, they're just very slight changes in that final sort of scene that leads to them that doesn't, I suppose it didn't have the depth there perhaps that I was hoping, having been on the journey or whatever of the story.
Yeah. One thing I do like is that it has multiple endings, because Life is Strange only technically has you do some choices and those affect the ending, whereas this one has like four variations, even though they're basically all the same, just different outcome.
Mm, mm.
But the fact that in this one you can make the choice basically at the end instead of having, the usual things affecting from the beginning until the end. This one mainly you get to make the choices at the end, so the multiple endings you just replay the ending to get the new endings. Makes it
Yeah.
easier for trophies.
Yeah, it does. It does. It does. And all up, I think, I mean, if you're using a guide or a bit of assistance, I think it's around 5 or 6 hours, or probably a little bit longer if you're playing yourself. There are collectibles as well, so if you're interested in one playthrough or save manipulation into sort of 1.5 playthroughs, I think it is. Is that sort of right, Zador? You have to do that extra half or so.
Yeah, I don't remember the details that much anymore, but you have to make choices, like
Yeah.
rationally or logically, and there's 6 or 7 big choices, so you'll have to replay a chunk of the game, but there is chapter select, so you don't have to begin from all the way at the beginning
Yes.
to get that.
Yeah, yeah. But look, overall, I mean, trophies and all that aside, what I loved about this game, and I know I'm a sucker for these, but you know that, is that it does have that overall Life is Strange feel to it. I mean, it's sort of artsy in that, you can sit down on the chair and just, everything like, and on the wharf there when the lake or whatever, and you can sit there and it just passes over you, and, the music, and there's a lot of good indie music here, and it's got, again, Tell Me Why, a similar Life is Strange 2 had a lot of these moments as well. They're just really relaxing. And I'm sure there's many people listening, Zador, that are like, get that out. I'm here for the gameplay. I don't want that garbage. But if you like that, there is a lot of that in there as well, which I thought it's a really nice touch. It's definitely their touch, and it's something that Telltale never pursued in their sort of narratives, and I don't think really anyone else is to that degree.
Yeah, it's very definitely a unique Life is Strange thing. They
Yeah.
do it in all their games. Well, I don't know about Vampire, but all the
Mm.
others at least.
Yeah, I'm probably too busy killing in that one.
Yeah.
And of course, they've got a new one coming out in September. I haven't watched the trailer. I assumed you wouldn't either, because I know you don't like to look into these things too much before. But it is all coming out in one go this time, and it is coming to the PlayStation as well as the Xbox. I'm sure you'll look into this later in the year.
Yeah, I'll definitely get it, but I don't know if I'll get it at launch. I heard they have like Ultimate Edition or something, which comes with remastered versions of Life is Strange and Before the Storm. I'm interested to
Yeah.
see if those get new trophy lists.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I want to ask you about this now because everybody knows that I'm mainly playing on the Xbox these days, and one of the things that I've noticed is that there isn't a separate achievement list. Now, I know there are a couple of games that do have a separate achievement list, but they're very thin on the ground. Control was one of them. In fact, I can't even think of another one. Whereas I'm seeing on the PS4 and PS5, there's a lot of crossover lists now, and some are auto pops, but not all are auto pops. Do you like this sort of multiple lists, and do you like this idea of, if you buy the PS4, you're getting the PS5 version for free on the games that this applies for?
Yeah, I like the free upgrades, and I also like that there are multiple trophy lists, but I wish they had some consistency. Either don't autopop or autopop. It shouldn't be that people have to find out if their game does that. I mean, obviously, the majority of people don't care, so in that way, it doesn't matter. But also, there are some games where I'm like, oh, I'm glad it doesn't autopop because I'd love to play this game again. Whereas the
Yes.
other, some of the games will just autopop instantly, like Hitman 3, so you can't even have a choice on it, which is kind of sad. You'd have to. I think they should always have it be manual, either upload a save or don't upload.
That's what I was really pushing at for you, because you're by no means a trophy whore. You know, you take the trophies as they come, but you're playing the game. And one of the appealing things to me is that I like to play some games, some longer games, more than once or whatever. And yes, it's awesome to get another stack for the trophies or whatever else. But with, as you say, with this auto popping, I was looking at in particular, I think the Spider-Man, which I think you might be playing, or you might have played a little bit of. I think this is an auto pop, isn't it? So if you've done it on the 4, you're basically getting that for free or whatever else, and you can't play it again. And well, I suppose if you don't bring your save over, you can.
Yeah, so Spider-Man and Miles Morales both have the auto
Yes.
popping. Um,
Yeah.
I won't be doing the Spider-Man one until I go back to it and finish the New Game Plus on highest difficulty, because I was too lazy to do that.
No,
uh,
I can understand now
but
from a.
I will at least auto pop Miles Morales once I'm done with that. Once I
Okay.
play it again.
Yeah, okay. There's a couple more games I want to ask about, but seeing we've deviated into the PS5, I'm very interested. Seeing I don't have one or whatever else. You've had yours now since, well, basically since launch. Quite a few months or whatever else. You've got into the systems. You've experienced the UI, these share cards, all this sort of trophy thing they're doing, the save transfers as well, and all this stuff. How are you finding your overall experience with it?
Overall, I'm very happy with it. It's faster and it's faster.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know.
Okay.
It's not graphically that much different. The speed is the main thing, and
Yeah.
some of the UI things are very nice, but others are just dumb. Like I don't like the new PlayStation Store.
Mm.
It's I
Is
don't
it
know.
different
It's
on the
buggy.
PS5 to the PS4, or is it the same layout?
I don't know if I've been on the PlayStation 4
Oh, of
store in
course
a
not.
while. Um,
Yeah.
I've mostly used, if I have to get something for PlayStation 4, I get it through the web store, which is awful now.
Oh, that's dreadful.
Uh,
Yes.
or the one on cell phone, which I prefer. It's
Yeah.
much better, the PlayStation app.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned about the speed, because I don't think you realize that until you play one of the next gen systems, the difference. And like you tell someone, okay, like, yeah, it took like, I don't know, 20 seconds to load before, and now it takes 10 or it takes 5. And you're like, well, that's 15 seconds. But it's not just 15 seconds once, it's every time that it happens. Or when you're fast traveling in particular, it's so quick. And I mean, it's sort of, it's furthering the immersion, I suppose. And that's so difficult to understand if you're still playing on the old systems. I find it interesting because I'm playing, on the PS4 still a little bit as well. Do you go back to your PS4 at all now, or is that sort of a difficult thing for you to do?
Well, right now it's difficult because PlayStation 4 doesn't have internet access because we we
It's very
upgraded our
difficult.
internet, so we haven't gone back and put them on the old
Yeah.
consoles. But I will return at some point because Kingdom Hearts is there, and I'll have to finish
Yeah.
the trophies on that, and Yakuza as well.
Yeah. Okay. We'll come to those. The other thing I thought was interesting too is I was around at a friend's the other week, and he has a PS5, and I think it very much depends. And I don't want to dwell on this fact because it's a personal decision or whatever. But I have a feeling that the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, I mean, they're almost identical machines. And running mine on the LG CX, the picture is phenomenal. And I've been wondering for a long time, because I've heard a few people, say the PS5, yeah, it looks okay or whatever. But I do think the display has a lot to do with it. So I think, if you're sitting there with the Xbox Series X in your mind, what that looks like, I think it's very similar, Zador, if not the same. Perhaps just the displays you're using as well. So both are pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. It always kind of depends on what setup you have, because
Yeah.
if you ever looked at like 4K videos or something on YouTube, and you'll see comments from people saying it doesn't look 4K or something because they don't have the
That's
display for
right.
it.
I'll never forget, like, when they still did E3 a couple of years ago, and I was listening to someone on IGN or something, and they were talking the technical stuff, and they, were recording in 4K or whatever, and they were trying to labor that exact point that, well, we can put it out there, with horrendous, upload times on YouTube, but the 90% of the people, 3 years ago didn't have 4K televisions or 4K, displays, so they're not gonna get any difference than they would get normally or whatever. And I think that disconnect, I think it still exists today a little bit, bit too. I wonder if people perhaps, I mean, whether you have 4K or not, but I wonder if they really know the difference. And then, of course, and a big shout out, I won't mention your name, but you keep reminding me every time. I find it hilarious in the private message. There is a big difference, of course, between a $300 TV that does 4K and then perhaps a more middle of the road one as well. So it's horses for courses, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Look, Zador, I want to just say, look, you cheap bastard, stop buying your Adelaide Plat, save your money and buy a decent display. But you're not supposed to say that, Zador. Cheap plats matter too. So,
Some of them do.
so look, some of them. Look, I'm not going down that path today. So we're gonna stay in quality here. Now, these ones I want to ask you about. I believe they're point and clicks. I'd never heard of them. I believe they're obviously a sequel here. The Dark Eye, Chains of Satanav. I apologize for pronunciation, and the Dark Eye Memoria. What are these?
Yeah, so I started playing all the Daedalic games I had been missing, the point and click ones anyway. And Dark Eye Memoria had just released at that time, I think. I don't remember Satinav released at the same time. But anyway, they're point and click games set in the Dark Eye universe, which is basically a tabletop role playing franchise slash book series. I don't remember which one mainly, but yeah. So there are various games set in that universe, and not all of them are made by Daedalic. There's those, I think they're called Realms of Arcania or something. Those games are also set in the same universe, but none of the stories connect. They're just using the lore, like the gods and world from those settings. So Dark Eye, Satinav, and Memoria, they are directly linked. One is a sequel to the other, and the main character is the same in both. But then the second one also introduces a new character as well as a new time period, separate from the main one. They're
Okay.
very dark, as in people die, but Daedalic also has other dark games like Deponia, so it makes
Yeah.
sense.
It is a point and click at its nature. Is it similar? Like this is more like the Deponia series than like Artifex Mundi. Is that what you're sort of implying here, or is it sort of in the same still picture, I suppose, vein?
It's a point and click. It doesn't have any hidden object stuff like Artifex Mundi would have. Um,
Okay.
it's I don't really know what to say about it.
No, that's well. Look, what I wonder is like, and this is a dreadful travesty or whatever, but the Artifacts Mondays, the stories are, yeah. Look, you could take them or leave them. Often, most people that play them have no idea what's going on using a guide. Is this more narrative focused then, like the Deponia series, I suppose, is where you actually do get invested in the story? Is that sort of what you're saying?
Yeah,
I suppose.
definitely narrative heavy,
Yeah.
and I think you could skip all cutscenes and text if you wanted to for a quicker platinum, but
Ugh.
it would, in my opinion, it would feel pretty weird if you just skipped everything because you wouldn't know why some of the stuff has happened.
Yes. Yeah. Now, look, this next game I want to ask you about because I jumped this on this day one because I love rhythm games. I expected it to be bloated and full of nonsense being a Kingdom Hearts game, but I didn't expect it to perhaps be so janky as it was. Look, in a lovable way, with the controls or whatever else. But how did you find this Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory game?
Overall, I like it, but I don't really like rhythm games. The gameplay is always just annoying, and in this one especially, because I don't really hear the rhythm in games, so it's hard for me. I'm just
Yeah.
I was just following the icons on screen, but I've heard that some people get input lag on this one, so I haven't noticed any input lag. I think it's always when I press it actually does something. But if people are actually getting the lag, then I would imagine some of the songs are impossible.
Yeah. So if you're not familiar with this game, listeners, basically it tells the story, and we'll come back to this in a sec. It tells the story from Kingdom Hearts 1 through all the offshoots, all the way to the final chapter, or the most recent chapter, I suppose. Shouldn't call it the final. I'm sure they'll squeeze more out of this yet. And it does a good job of telling the story in very short little, cutscene segments or whatever else. But the bulk of the game, as you said, Zador, it's a rhythm game. It's based on lanes, 3 lanes or whatever. It's a unique sort of rhythm game, I suppose, in a way, because I don't always feel that the beat and the notes necessarily line up, and I don't think that's the lag. I think there is a little bit of give and take, especially with some of the moves where you're jumping up and swinging the sword. It really distorts the beat depending on how you're, whether you're listening in headphones or not. And it's one of those games that a really good rhythm game, like a quality rhythm game, and yes, most of them are Japanese, you should be able to close your eyes and play that game if you know the button prompts just through feel. And I think it's sort of what you were saying, Zador, as well. It's very hard to get the feel on some of the tracks, like very hard.
And easy on others.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
Some clearly match the icons, and then others are just like, I don't think there's anything there, but I see an icon, so I'll press.
That's right, and it's tough too because it's not. I was really hoping it might have actually been, an orchestral recording because of all the music or whatever, but it is all synthesized or whatever else, and I think that can make it difficult as well. Maybe the leveling and something. I also found, like as you say, the difficulty spikes in some of the tracks when you're from easy to hard or whatever. It's unique and it's interesting. But putting that side of it aside, I know you're a big fan of this series or whatever else. Did you like the idea of bulking the story in these short little cutscenes, perhaps for someone like me that's never going to sit down and play them all? Or do you think it did a bit of a disservice to the arching overall story?
Overall, I think it's fine. I'm always a bit disappointed when they make a spin-off game like this and then have it continue the main game story, because this continues it at the very end. Because most people that play Kingdom Hearts but don't play rhythm games, they won't get this. So I would hope that they would in some way recap this, because there will be a slight confusion when the next Kingdom Hearts game comes out if it directly continues from this.
And if we're
Unless
alive
they just
when that happens.
yeah. Unless they just hand wave it, kind of like it's not important to explain why things are the way they are.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's fun or whatever else. I've got to ask you, because it looks like, you've got most of the trophies here. Some of these last trophies, it's a pretty big grind though, isn't it? Like you've got to go back through everything quite a bit. Is that correct?
Yeah, so every song you'll have to do a minimum of 3 times, once on each difficulty.
Yeah.
And then you have to do the 50 chains on each difficulty, which means not missing a single note. Um, it's kinda easy on the lowest difficulty.
Yes.
And then the normal difficulties, some songs are hard and some are easy. And then the third one, because you have a health bar in this one. So it's not just getting through a song even if you miss some notes, because you can just die midway through a song and then that attempt was a failure. You'll have to do it again. Obviously, if you're doing the chain, you'd want to not miss a single one. But when you're just going for the clears on some of the harder songs, it can be annoying because you keep dying.
Yeah. What are the upshoots? Like that's not an unusual trophy for a rhythm game, and some rhythm games make it very tough in that you can't, your chains or your perfects have to come on different songs. Like once you've perfect that song, you can't, just keep farming that song. My understanding in this game is you can keep farming it, and there are some songs that are shorter at least. So if you're going to memorize them, I suppose there's that. But that means you got to play the same song 50 times. It's always fun.
Well, you can't farm it on the same song, but they have one button mode which replaces all buttons with like any button you press, and that one counts separately from the normal gameplay.
Okay.
And also co-op also counts separately. So technically you could do 3 songs, one song 3 times for 3 full chains. But then
Okay.
other things like the complete all songs does not count the separate ones. So you can only do the normal one
Yeah.
for all songs.
Okay. Okay, I like that. And then the only other thing I wanted to ask you about this is that, a rhythm game, by and large, once you get into the groove of it, you know what's going on, you know how to play. It's very much the same. Obviously, the prompts or whatever move around from song to song, but the mechanics are much the same. It's not like an RPG or something where you get mechanics added as the game goes on. Although this game has an interesting thing where you have these boss fights where instead of becoming, a vertical three lane rhythm game or whatever, it becomes a horizontal 3-lane rhythm game. That really threw me to start with, and I thought perhaps was the jankiest part of the game, especially because I didn't really understand what some of the stuff was doing when you were trying to avoid being hit. Did you like that element of the game, or was that a bit tough for you to get your head
Yeah,
around?
so boss fights and then the other one is cutscene things.
Hmm.
I found both of those to be quite difficult in the way that the boss
Yeah.
fight introduced all the uh, hold two different buttons at the same time. Then midway you get a third one, so you have to press a third button and then let go of the other two before the third one finishes, and that kept messing me up.
Yeah.
it's I kept just letting go of the wrong ones or just not letting go because I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna continue with the third one, but I'll just hold all three buttons still. And then the cutscene one I found difficult because so often the background, the scene is white, and you don't see the icons anymore. I can't perceive them, so I'll just keep missing them because they'll go over. This character has a white outfit now. You can see the icons. I'm like, okay, made it a
Yes.
bit difficult.
It was a little more than a bit, but yes, I agree. It's so funny because there's a rhythm game. You probably haven't come across it. It's a Japanese. Well, I want to say Japanese, but actually, I think it's Chinese now that I think about it. It's called MU Sync or MUSYN. I think it's C. It could be X. I think it's C though, or whatever. There are various stacks of this game or whatever. And it plays on the Vita as well, but it's a really good rhythm game. The prompts really match up. It's one of these games where you can close your eyes and play. It's highly anime as well, so there's all the anime, scenes going on in the background or whatever else. But it's a really wonderful game Zeta because it starts off, fine and everything's going fine, and then you get to the level 5 songs, which will take a few hours to get to, and it's just off the wall, as you say, like holding multiple buttons, holding the side. It almost becomes like one of these disco games almost. It's just yeah, out of nowhere, which I think I think is wonderful. But there's no Hatsune in these sort of things, but one at a time. But it is what it is. Look, I see Greedfall at 0 of 59. Was that a mistake, or you just bored one afternoon?
Yeah, so I do the game sharing for my other console
Mm-hmm.
so that my brother can play a game.
Mm. Good. I'm
And
glad you
then
let him.
yeah, then he'll forget to log out of my profile after the game is downloaded and he'll start up
Ah,
the game.
so it is a
So I
mistake.
was next to him this time when he did it, because sometimes I'm not.
Mm.
So he started it and then he was like, "Was I supposed to log out of your profile?" I'm like, "Yes." So now Greedfall is there at 0%. I do want to play it eventually. I like these poorly made Western RPGs.
It's
So maybe one day
oh,
it looks interesting.
it's old school. That's the word that you use for these sort of games. It's old school. I'm trying to think. Was this on PS Plus or something recently, or it's PS Now or something like this? There's a
Yeah, so it was free because I don't think I would have bought it for
mm,
him.
mm.
I don't remember which one. Plus, probably.
Yeah, yeah. It's really like I think you would probably like it. I know it's on the Xbox on the Game Pass as well, and it's very much an old school like a Baldur's Gate style RPG or whatever else. It definitely looks like that as well. They're a B grade studio, but it's one of these games. I imagine the trophies would be an absolute nightmare because you have divergent paths right from the beginning in classes, and then also in quest lines and relationship lines. And I'm pretty sure there's no way to manipulate saves to do it all in one. I'm sure somebody's probably done it in one playthrough, but it would be a lot of work. But if you're just playing it for the fun of the story, I think it's supposed to be quite good. So hopefully one of us will play it.
Y- Yeah, so my brother doesn't really care about trophies.
No, no.
He'll read the trophy list and he'll read the trophy guide and then he'll get trophies and he'll be like, I'm gonna do this action. Then he does it. Then he loads. He gets a trophy. And then he's like, but I'm not gonna get the platinum. He just likes getting the ones he can get.
I like that.
Yeah. So he has like two platinums and one of them is control. Because he liked that enough to actually finish it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, when he was reading the trophy guide for Greedfall, it had multiple endings and then relationship trophies, but you'll have to have a different gender character to actually get all of them
That's
because
right.
they have gender exclusive ones.
Mm.
And then it has some of the endings require you to have certain relationships with factions, and you can't get all of them in one playthrough, so it does require several.
Yeah.
Kind of daunting platinum.
It's a funny game because, like, when I started playing, I put about 3 or 4 hours into it and got through the opening area and into the main game. And there's a boss fight fairly early on, which is sort of it's aimed at teaching you the mechanics. And I think there is, if trophies concern you, I think you do need to play on the ultra hard difficulty as well for one of them. But even on the normal difficulty, that fight was kind of challenging. It was actually very challenging early on in the game, and it really struck me then as a PC game because the way now it may perhaps been fixed or whatever, but the way it fell on the console, there was a lot of actions going on, a lot of sub menus you're opening at the same time. But if you can get your head around that, it sort of almost felt like those isometric, RPGs or whatever, like Pillars and even Divinity to a degree, but perhaps not as much depth or whatever. But if you can get your head around that, it's okay, I think. And look, I want one or two more I want to ask about. This one, I haven't played this. I haven't watched any of the footage or whatever, but I remember Velvet talked about this. She played this at release or slightly before on the PS4. I see you've played it on the PS5. I know it's one of the marquee titles for the PlayStation. You don't have many games there for the PS5. This is one of them, I'm told. Sackboy: A Big Adventure.
Yeah, so I think Velvet said it's easy,
She's
if I
talented, though.
remember correctly. Yeah. I've played it with my brother, so we'll only play it when he wants to play it, and I liked it, but it's definitely it feels like a difficult game to me,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it's more difficult than Little Big Planet itself was, because I was playing it and I was like, this is difficult, but then I had flashbacks to Little Big Planet levels, and I was like, but those felt more difficult,
Oh.
especially when you had to do them with 4 players for some of them. Um, but yeah, I would say the game itself isn't too hard, but then it has those trials, like you have to do this level in this time to get all the rewards, and
Mm.
then the final one is do all of the levels that you've done previously, those trials,
Mm.
in a certain time
Yeah.
with basically one hell life, and that feels kind of daunting as well. Um, and Redbeard Frick was playing this with his son,
Mm.
and at first they were at least having fun, but you could tell it got more annoying to play because
Yeah.
it gets harder as you go.
He was getting frustrated, was he? I like that.
Yeah,
It's so funny because
but I was also getting frustrated playing it, so it makes sense.
it's under. It's so funny. I had when I sort of started. I must have been like 4 years ago or so, and I don't know. It was one of the early Little Big Planet games or whatever. And I was playing with this guy, and he was trying to 100% it or whatever else, and he needed. There must have been some co-op trophies, or you needed to get through the game with two people or something. I don't remember the gist of it. And look, I don't play platformers. I don't have any skills at all in any games, let alone a game like that. And there was a boss where you had to do it without getting hit or something. And he was all over it. But of course, if I got hit, it ruined it for him. And the tension in that party chat, Zador, was off the wall. I was paralyzed. He was swearing at me. It was all going off because I just kept getting hit. And it was a cheap game. The guy just kept jumping on me. There's nothing I could do, But it scarred me for life, I think, on those games. I can't do it.
So I see you didn't have your reputation as the guy who dies.
Well, I do now. Everybody knows
Yeah.
that now. If you need a revival partner, I'm just coming off Ghost Recon
Yeah.
Breakpoint. If you need
So
10 revivals.
Sackboy also has this ace the level, don't die
Oh, really?
things, but you only have to do I think 20 or something. We
Yeah.
kept still doing them with my brother after the 20, but then we hit some levels where it just felt impossible, and I was like, we don't have to do this. Then we stopped doing them.
I like that. I like that. Now, I want to talk about. We're sort of shifting now towards Assassins and Hitman 3, but in the last few months, I mean, it's just been a catch up because there's been so many massive games come, and a lot of these games they demand. Well, not only do they demand a lot of your time, but they demand time in you playing them to learn how the systems in the games work. And then I'm not sure if you're a little like me, Zador. Once you get invested in it, it's more difficult to start another one and keep all this stuff in balance. And I'm talking here of this Yakuza like a dragon or whatever else. This is a game that I still have on the shelf. I really want to play it, but I don't think it's a game I can play while I'm playing other games. I think this is your first Yakuza game. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, we don't count Judgment because it's a spin-off.
Ah, that's right. I forgot about
Yeah.
that game. That was really good though.
Yeah, I like that as well.
Hmm.
Because I'm glad I kind of have given up on trophy hunting, because otherwise I would not have played these games.
Yeah.
Because I used to have the go for 100% or don't play it
Yeah.
thing. But then I stopped because there were so many good games. I looked at the trophies and I was like, I'm not gonna do those.
Mm.
And then I just decided, you know what, I'll just do them and not go for 100%. And I'm glad I did, because Judgment was a great game, and Yakuza Like a Dragon is a great game as well. I especially like it's turn-based, and even though I didn't care about the other Yakuzas before playing Judgment in this one, now I kind of want to go back and play them, even though they're not going to be turn-based. um, and also, I want to hear Mark Hamill as one of the characters in one of the games.
Mm.
He didn't reprise his role for this one, sadly, even
No,
though the character is in this one.
yeah. Now, sort of without
Mm.
major spoilers or whatever, and I haven't really done any reading on this game. This is it's a good place to start, isn't it? I mean, you started here, but it doesn't link. And I don't want to say the ending of 6 because you still have to play it, but there's a very definitive ending in 6. It's wonderful. It's definitely worth playing or whatever else. But this is just starts right away. There's no recap, is there, from 6? This is just a totally almost like a standalone thing in a way, or a new story, I suppose.
Yeah, so it does start from its own thing in the past, then it fast travels to the future after that. Uh, so it does link to the other games. So there are characters returning, and plot points are referenced, but nothing is recapped really, like you said.
Yeah.
So they'll have like a character show up, and then everyone's like, "Who's that?" And then he's like, "It doesn't matter who I am," and they'll just offhandedly refer to something that's happened,
Mm.
but it's never gonna be detailed what happened because they want you to play the other games.
Yeah, one of the biggest, I suppose, new mechanics in this game, as opposed to the rest of the series, is the turn-based combat or whatever else. Now, I know you haven't played the other ones, and I know, the other form of combat was very much loved because it was button mashy or whatever, but I suppose it was in a way, building up combos of buttons like your 4 circles or your 2 circles, whatever square, to do different moves. But at the end of the day, it just like most Sony games like this, like Spider-Man, all this, it falls back on this combat that just becomes button mashy or whatever else. This is moving in a totally different direction. I know you like turn-based games. How did this sort of work for you?
Well, technically, you could say this one is also a button machine because you'll just keep pressing cross for the whole game.
Is it break down to that, does it?
Well, because all the menu actions you can do with cross. Uh,
Oh,
yeah,
really?
I like the turn-based in this one. It's very interesting because characters will keep moving.
Mm.
So if you wait, you could wait for enemies to line up, so you could do an RF effect attack, or you can just do it immediately when you want to, but then it won't hit as many people.
Mm.
Or if you wait, the characters could spread out, and then it won't hit as many as you wanted to.
Yeah.
But some of the most powerful abilities in this game are, in my opinion, the RF effect ones. So my final party for where I am in the game, I've basically just had people who hit as many people as possible to get rid of the enemies quickly.
Mm.
Um, it does have those summons and some special abilities that are very powerful, but they also cost a lot. Like the summons, first time you do them, they're free, but then every other time you'll have to pay, and they also have a cooldown. in-game days for when they can come back to be used again.
Mm.
And some of them are really powerful, free healing and stuff, and others are just basically choke summons. um,
That's what I'm looking forward to the most.
yeah. So the main character, he kind of imagines all the RPG elements
Yeah.
there in his head because he's a bit crazy about
Mm.
Dragon Quest.
Mm.
So some of the attacks and stuff you can tell he's invented, even though Yakuza is famous for its kind of weird
Mm.
stuff that he has. But some of them are just over the top, and he's imagining all of them like a giant space laser satellite.
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm looking the most forward to. I suppose what I'm driving at from what you've played, and look, you've played the majority of the game. I think perhaps you're up to that brick wall that everybody gets to at the end there, or whatever with that dungeon. But is there enough depth in the combat? Do you think, or does it just become like that, as you said, you just push X to get through it, sort of thing? After what
I
would be
think,
50 hours, I assume you've put in probably more.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think it still has depth because you have status effects you could exploit, and enemies have weaknesses. Your attacks have like elements or their type. Some enemies resist guns or melee
yeah,
and stuff like that. So you'll actually still have to think about what you're doing, unless you're just high enough level to kill them in one anyway. There are some enemies that you'll find, even if you're like level 99, and you run into an enemy and it's level 60, but it's so tanky that the fight still takes forever, even if you use all your best abilities or their weaknesses, because they're just that tanky. So
yeah,
I like to avoid those fights if I can.
yeah. I don't blame you.
uh, so Dragon Quest has the metal slimes
Yes.
that give lots of EXP and stuff. So this game had to have one as well, because it is inspired by Dragon Quest. And it's this vagabond, hobo.
I've
He
heard
has
about this. Yes.
like, I don't remember how much health, barely any,
Yeah.
but most attacks miss or don't do any damage.
Yeah.
And then he'll escape the fight.
I was gonna ask. Yeah.
Yeah,
there,
but
there's nothing
so
worse than that.
basically you have to farm him in order to get all your jobs to the certain levels so you can tackle the final dungeons.
Yeah.
Um, and there's this like preferred route in the sewers where you get to like, I don't know, remember how many, 5 fights against this hobo, which is a nice chunk of EXP, but it'll take forever.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that grind is real and it's sudden when it hits you towards the end of that game. Yeah, it's good to be reaffirmed. I suppose I'm dragging on that because I've been playing obviously some of this Atelier series, the Riser one, which is very friendly compared to the others, but it has turn-based combat as well, and it's another game you're spending 50 to 80 hours in easily or whatever else, and the combat, it gets in the way, I think, sometimes. And in the new one, there's a lot going on if you want it to be or whatever, but they've included this thing where you can't even just sort of set it to turn based anymore. You have to push buttons as well while the countdown's going on, and it's at times I just feel like it would be wonderful to skip. And I don't know if this game interests you or not. I think it possibly doesn't. The new Persona, or the extension, the Strikers game, the Musou game, and I know it's a different form of combat, but I'm enjoying the story. And one of the things they've done in that game, and if you're a trophy hunter or whatever purist, perhaps you don't like it, is there is a basically a god ability in that game with one attack that will just wipe the floor clean, and you just move on, and you can just abuse that every fight if you want to. And I think, I don't know, like that's what scares me about this Yakuza, and what I found in the other games, even though it was a different form of combat, was that I was there for the story or whatever else, and it became very monotonous. So I'm sure you know what I'm saying. You play Dragon's Quest, you know about monotonous or whatever, but it's so hard to get that balance, I suppose. So that's what I'm going to be looking for, I suppose. Whether I'll feel that, it's dreadful to say, but will I be doing something else while I'm engaged in the combat just to get through it? I suppose, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's enough variety here,
Oh, good.
like in the gameplay, because you have the jobs, you can switch what your characters are. Some have exclusive ones, they're default ones, and but some of them are really
Mm.
goofy ones, like a fortune teller as a
Yes.
job, because they're using this job changing agency in game, so all the jobs are real jobs, but how they play in fights are just interesting.
Yeah.
My favorite one though has to be I think it's called Clerk. I don't remember. But anyway, one of the characters, an optional character, because this does have one optional character,
Mm.
has this job her default one where she just uses office supplies like phone lines and stuff against enemies, and she's my favorite because of that.
It's just if you don't play any Japanese games, you're just missing out. Whether it be Dragon's Quest, this, like whatever. There's just so much absurdity in these games. It's wonderful, and it's so funny, Zador. Before we started, like I was looking at your list, and I'm like, oh, you've really slowed down in your gaming or whatever. And then it was refreshing to hear you say, that you're letting go of trophies a little bit, which is wonderful because, as you said, you would never have played this game, if you were focused solely on the platinum, which would have been a travesty, I feel. But looking at your list, you've actually everything you're playing is really substantial games. They're big time sinks, so you're doing very well. So I'm impressed. With that in mind, why don't we shift across to two massive games? Why don't we start with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, if that's okay with you, sir?
Yeah, that's fine.
So, some interesting facts here, listeners, or look, some horrifying facts, Zador. This is the 22nd release in the AC series, but I like to think of these, and this is my opening sort of, question or talking point for you. I like to think of the last three Assassins, Origins in 2015, Odyssey 2018, and of course Valhalla, the current offering in 2020. They're distinct, or to me they feel very different to the other Assassin's Creeds. They're full open world games, although the others were as well. They're much more, they're much broader in scope. They're much longer in scope. Do you think that's a fair statement? Do you see these three games differently, or do you still feel that they're, it's still Assassin's Creed, per se?
Yeah, so it kind of feels like a soft reboot for the series in the fact that you have a new main character. The rest of the team is new. You only have a few other characters return once in a while, like a villain in the previous one. But other than that, it didn't really seem like it connected much, other than the overall lore. But in this one, they bring a lot more back. Major characters and spoilers. So this Valhalla is the most connecting one back to the originals again.
Yeah.
But gameplay-wise, I like these, but I kind of still prefer the Ezio ones or Black Flag. Those all just still felt, because they were still shorter, and I like the more assassin gameplay. This one luckily at least brought back the assassin gameplay again. But this one makes me really excited for where the modern storyline is going, because this one has a really interesting ending and everything. Hopefully they keep it interesting in the next one.
Yeah, it's so funny because I know there are some people, in the Discord order, some listeners that are early on in the series, like AC2 or the Ezio trilogy, and it's so funny. I was doing some teaching this morning, and I had a student who loves to talk Assassins, and he's just finished Black Flag, and he's moving through them all, and he's about to start Rogue or whatever else. He was telling me, and I was thinking, after we talked, I was like, you're in for such a world of difference when you hit these three newer ones, because they are so different. But I hear a lot of people also say they don't like Origins or Odyssey, and I'm sure it'll be the same for Valhalla, because they're just so bloated, or they're so much longer in their sort of a thing. And I've described it, before jokingly, as a single player MMO, particularly Valhalla in its nature. Do you think they're getting so bloated that it's even hard to follow a narrative now?
It's a hard question for me to answer, because I like doing all the optional stuff before I advance the story. so I'll forget about the storyline for days anyway.
Well, let's stop. Let's talk about that for a sec, because that's pretty out there. That is Trophy Hunter 101. That's hardcore. So how many hours did you spend cleaning up the whole map before you started the story?
In Valhalla?
Yeah.
I don't remember, 180 hours before I did
a
that.
lot more than playing the story, I'm assuming. The story was the short part.
Yeah, because I don't remember what the estimate for the trophy time on this one is, but I think I went significantly lower than what I assumed I would, because I did all the optional stuff first, then I advanced the story, and I was like, it just ended.
See, I want to pick up on this then, because I really enjoyed Odyssey. I think I enjoyed Origins, but I couldn't tell you what it was about, because I played it over time, and it was too bitsy or whatever. And I thought part of the reason I liked Odyssey was because of the expansions. I thought they did a good job in tying it all together, for me at least. What I really liked about Valhalla was that I think they corrected the problem of a 100-hour game, and I think it's very clever. Like there are hardcore people like you and me, Zador, that will put 100 hours in over a month or 2 months or whatever it's going to take. But the majority of people that play this game are going to play it over a year. And Valhalla was broken. Now I know you didn't play it like this because you did all your collectibles first, but it was broken into sections, and the stories were self-contained within the region, and then the overall story across the whole thing. I really liked that. I thought that was a clever move because you played it differently, I suppose, where you could literally move to each level because you were already fully maxed, or you were never level capped, I suppose, in the quest. You never had to build your level to progress. Did you feel it like that, like it was in all little sections, or playing the way you did, is it much more of an overall story?
Yeah, so I'll refer to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which you don't care about.
The
in
Snyder
this.
Cut, the
So,
Snyder Cut.
yeah. Well, that's DC.
Oh, look, I don't know the difference.
So you have a Marvel movie that's self-contained with characters and some others maybe appearing there, and then you have a team-up movie where all of them come together. So
Yeah.
this kind of felt like that. Have like solo arcs, and then you have a little Avengers thing where they all come together, then more solo stuff, and then another one where they all come together.
Mm.
I liked it. Uh, I'm a bit disappointed about the fates of some of the characters, that you have no influence over their fates. But they have a story to tell, so they'll tell it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I don't know. I think in some ways, because I hear a lot of people go, I didn't like Origins, I didn't like Odyssey. I think this one will sit better for them because of that. The other thing that I hear a lot is that, oh, it doesn't look very good, or it's not very beautiful, or it's kind of bland. And I mean, part of that is the setting in England as well. I think it's quite true to that, or whatever else. And yes, it's not hyper stylized like a Far Cry or something with its color scheme or whatever, but it felt to me much more than Origins and Odyssey. And I know we haven't had the DLC yet, so potentially it'll go very I don't know, otherworldly or something, with the exception of that other world that I suppose is in the game as well. It feels much more, I suppose, truer, like a real story, not sort of a high fantasy. I don't know if you feel that is too big a stretch.
Well, without going into spoilers, it may feel more realistic, but then it won't.
Well, those two
Yeah.
side, look, like I don't know how we talk around it, because MZ asked for
Yeah.
your opinion. So I think we if you don't want to hear any more, then skip ahead or whatever. But we should touch those or whatever else, because I thought those two sections or whatever else, I thought they could have almost been the DLC. They were so big. I wasn't expecting that. I don't know if you were.
Yeah, so I didn't think they would be that expansive, but I also didn't think they'd be that small, because they're still small.
Yes.
But the DLC will mostly be, in the real world.
Yeah.
Well, the Viking world. Um, I don't know when those are coming. I'm waiting for them, but that I'll say in this point is that I cared more about the extra stuff in Origins and Odyssey, the timed content.
Mm.
But in this one, they've had the Yule festival thing, which I did. That's why I had to start the game, because it was going to go away. And then they had river raids or
Yes.
something like that, which were time limited. I read about them and I was like, nah, I'm not going to go back and do that. I'll just miss the rewards. I wasn't like that in Odyssey and Origins. I actually went back to fight the, Anubis and stuff.
Yeah.
But in this one, I was like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Didn't sound fun.
I think the two they've had so far, they're much more like open world events as opposed to actual, like boss or encounters, I suppose, in the way they've done it. And I think the problem with this, because I literally this afternoon just finished Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and we're not going to talk about that because I know it doesn't interest you at all, but one of the things that I really enjoyed about that game is that, I played it 2 years ago at launch and it was just a joke. It was disgraceful or whatever else. It should never have been released. They should never have been charged for. And then to play it today, where the whole first year's expansion's out, the map is fully loaded, everything's done. It's a different experience, and I can enjoy. They put a lot of those in-game events as permanent events in the game now. Like you can have the Terminator in there whenever you want. You can turn it on and off. And playing it now, it's really good. But I think the problem with those events so far in Assassins is that if you're not still playing the game, there's no incentive, as you say, to go back, because they're things that are happening within the world as you move around it. They're not necessarily draw cards back into the world, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and both of them were grindy in their own way. The previous one, you had to collect those coins or tokens, whatever.
Yeah.
Just do the archery thing constantly. And then this other one has you raiding all those locations in a new section.
Yeah.
Um, and I read people saying how grindy it is and it just gets boring after an hour. And it's like, I just don't want to do it then. It didn't seem worth it,
Yeah. No.
even though there were new equipment and stuff.
Yeah.
But I
No.
was like, mm,
I
I don't want
totally
to do
understand. Yeah. And the other problem too is I don't know if you had this problem on the PS5, but it was a massive problem on the Series X. Is that, and part of it I think was to do with the quick resume, which is always dicey in a big game. If you're going to use that feature or whatever else. But even without quick resume, it was still doing it where it wouldn't even track the quest markers in that Yuletide thing. And if you dropped the barrel, it was stuck there under the ocean forever. And there were a whole lot of glitchy things in that you had to be really careful of. So I'm sure the newer ones moving forward will be better. I wanted to ask you a selfish question on this game here. So you finish it all up and you do everything else. Then you've got to hunt down those sort of key figures or whatever else. That leads to the final part of the story. Is that correct, or is that not correct?
technically it's correct.
So technically, I need to do
the
that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so the end of the game is basically um, revelations, and
Mm,
then that ties into the modern one.
mm.
It goes at a fast pace once you reach the end.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, maybe I'll go back to it. What I want to ask is, the other part. Obviously, it's moving between England and Norway. That's correct. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. So they're quite distinctive. Did you like that? Like, I love starting in Norway. I love the ice, the snow. I mean, for you, that's every day. I know. But did you like it?
yeah, I like Norway. I liked sliding down the mountains in snow.
Yeah.
uh, the only problem with Norway is the no most northern part of the map. The first time you're in Norway in the prologue, you can't go there. Then you go to England, and at some random point, you just can go back north on Norway, but it doesn't explain it because you don't actually visit it until the end of the game.
Mm.
But I had read that it doesn't open up until then. I just randomly went to Norway and it was open, and I just did all the exploring there.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't like that part of the map because there's no fast travel points there at
Yes.
all.
That's true.
So if you go there early, then you'll have to go back there later, and then you'll have to go back there again to get some of the optional weapons that are there. So it's potentially 2 to 3
Yeah.
long road trips without any fast travel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then England, we've already been to England, so in
Mm.
that way, but this is now the past again, the Viking times. England is kind of gloomy and boring because
Well, it's
why go
plain.
for a
Yes.
yeah, why go for such a dark, uninteresting setting in the next gen, well, current gen now?
Yes.
uh, it feels kind of weird. But then, of
Mm.
course, like you said, we have spoilers, Asgard and Jotunheim,
Mm.
and then the most boring one of Vinland. Um,
You only spend a few minutes there. It's okay.
yeah, it's
In
quick.
comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I do like that the Vinland one connects to Assassin's Creed 3, which is one of the most hated Assassin's Creed games. But it's like a direct link to that one. Mm, but yeah, the mythological worlds are interesting, and how they are represented here, how they explain them being there, is interesting. Because if you compare them to the Atlantis DLC in Odyssey, which was kind of poorly explained, but you can infer how it happens, and basically just memories adapted to how
yeah.
your character sees them.
Yeah. I will.
But they did happen in the past, and this is the same. These are explained as having happened, but again, you're experiencing them through your character's eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, and and we're talking directly here to Emsy. You've been warned, listeners, or whatever. But obviously, there is this issue with all these assassins where you're in that world in the Animus, and then you're out or whatever else. I didn't mind that. I thought that was fine. But of course, there's a major, depending on how you play the story. I found it interesting. There's a major revelation, and because you'd done all the collectibles and things, I suppose when you finished the story, you had the plat, you were done. But if you've played like me, where you were doing a bit of, I still have about a quarter of that stuff to go. You basically switch who you are, and that was a real mental shift for me or whatever else. And you see that character that way, I suppose, it's treading loosely, carefully here, Emsley, but you see that character that way when you do things like the jumping puzzles that reveal the lore for the fragments or whatever else. And it's a really interesting. I think there's a lot more attention, as you say, to the detail if you want it to be, but I think you could also play it like a Witcher or whatever else, and you just do your side quests and you do all this, and you don't delve too deeply into the lore if you don't wish to.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing I don't like about the Assassin's Creed games now is all these little notes and stuff you can find in various places, because the game doesn't force you to collect them, but they have a lot of background information for a lot of things, character motivations and stuff. And I know I've probably missed a lot of them, even though I looked everywhere. So I wish there was a counter in game or a log that showed all that you've already found.
Yeah, it's funny because I know in the previous, I don't know if it was in the last one, I think it was, or definitely in the Origins, they had that discovery mode or whatever. And when you're playing these games, there can be like a history lesson if you want to partake in all the stuff that you find along the way. But yeah, it's interesting because I find that stuff overwhelming. I just can't handle it all. But I can imagine you as the completionist there wanting all of them and really immersing yourself in it. I think that's wonderful, sir.
Yeah, so Discovery Mode, both Origins and Odyssey had it,
Mm,
and this one will get it as well. At least that's what they've said.
yes.
I don't know when it's coming out. But one thing that's disappointing about the Discovery Mode is that on PC players can pick a character. You can look like Julius Caesar, for example.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And we're stuck as our character. I mean, that's just evil.
Yes, I didn't
PC
know that.
favoritism,
Well,
PC master race.
that PlayStation 5 can only handle so much or whatever or whatever else. I suppose one of the things that I really love, this was the first game I played on the Series X. I had the game and I waited 2 months or so to get the machine to play it on. And my partner, he detests games or whatever. He doesn't play them at all, and he thinks they're rubbish, and they look like rubbish most of the time. And playing in that Norway section with the HDR on a good monitor, for me, and again, it's the next gen, and I know it would be the same on the PS5. I was just amazed at the way it looked, and the character models and the faces in Assassins or whatever, they're not perfect or whatever else, but the actual landscape and the snow and the reflection and the light is just phenomenal. And to the point where I'd left it there, and he came in and was sitting down, and he's like, "Oh, what are we watching?" And he actually thought it was going to be a movie or a TV show, and I think that's a real testament to and I know I play a lot of JRPGs and trashy looking things, so so it was probably a shock. But it is really, and I know you said England is bland or whatever, but there are some really beautiful moments in this on the next gen systems.
Yeah, I mean there are still good locations. There's
Yeah.
towers that are over water and some big fortresses with interesting details. The Stonehenge is there. That's all interesting stuff, at least.
Now I have to.
But then there's
Yes.
just miles and miles of
Nothing.
open fields with nothing in them.
Yeah. Now there are side quests and spread throughout the world everywhere that you can partake in or whatever you would have had to have for the platinum. Were there any that stuck in your mind, or was there any that were really aggravating for you? Because I have one that really aggravated me, but I'd be interested to hear if you had any.
So they have so many interesting weird ones, like
Yes.
the story of the lame man and the blind man.
Hmm.
Then there's the one about a couple that their relationship doesn't work unless they're raiding, so they want you to just destroy their home.
That's right. Let her on fire.
They're like
Yeah.
such weird stuff. But I think Odyssey had the better
Ah,
storylines for this side quest because it has the one about the very bad day where everything just goes
yes.
wrong. That is my favorite side quest in Assassin's Creed. But
Well,
as for aggravating ones, I'm thinking. the one problem these had is that they're not properly marked unless you know get
Yes.
near or do the VF pointing. And then I've heard that they can glitch if you don't do them once they're activated. Like if they show up, you should do them.
Yes.
And that felt like a problem to me because I was doing the exploration and then I'd go to these high level areas and it would trigger a world event there. And I'd
Mm.
be like, well, I'm gonna do it then.
I,
And
I can just imagine you running through these high level areas. You're way under level just to grab that
yeah.
collectible with everybody chasing you and everything going on.
Well,
Oh, I
that
think
was
it's
funny
wonderful.
because in the prologue you have access to a level 180 area, I think, and
Yes.
you're like level 10,
They're
just
one
running
shotting
around
you from.
doing. Yeah.
Oh, just got to grab it first. Yeah, no, I love that. Well, look, I'm going to throw one. I don't know if you remember this. Perhaps you will, because of course most of them are very short. Unlike Origins and Odyssey, they can be a minute or 2 minutes long. Some of them, in their length or whatever. But it was this guy in England with the wallop, and he's like, "Do you want to take my wallop?" And I don't know if you remember this guy. He's a real bastard. And I kept running into him. And of course, the wallop is the hit or whatever, and you had to play his dialogue every time he hit you. And I think you needed to be a certain level to be able to actually be strong enough to hit him. And I think you needed to hit him 3 times. And I must have played that thing across the course of the game. Probably like 20 times I heard that dialogue. And it was very frustrating. But I don't know if you remember the wallop dude.
Um, I'm thinking. Well, I remember that some old guy who's like
Yes.
undefeated.
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
I obviously cleared that first try
Well,
because I
look,
was so
you're a
high level
skilled
at that
gamer,
point.
so yes. There's nothing worse than having to repeat the same dialogue over and over again to get to the event, because you failed
Mm.
it. It's just, so annoying. But, anyway, it is what it is. Now, I want to ask, just before we move to Hitman, if we can, you did use the save transfer here to get, the auto pop, the platinum, but it was a little bit more complicated than that. Is that correct?
Yeah. So this one, I don't know if they ever actually intended it to be autopop because of how poorly it works. So you do either version, doesn't matter if it's PS4 or PS5, as far as I remember. Because
Mm,
anyway, the only saves you can transfer are the ones that the game uploads to the cloud. So the game itself, Ubisoft Connect, uploads a save, and that's the only one you can use.
yeah.
So the first time you do it, you upload whichever save you uploaded. I uploaded my end game one, and that will unlock, I don't know, 30 trophies or something. And then the rest of them don't auto pop even if you've already done the requirements. And some of them are story ones. But I
Mm.
had looked at a trophy list from one of the people who had the platinum, and I looked at which trophies didn't unlock, and so I used all of my save files except one to have a save point to go back to for those trophies that didn't unlock for that person. I
Mm.
probably should have looked at another person because I did a lot of pointless saves because I don't know why, but they just didn't unlock some of the trophies I did. So I had a lot of pointless saves there. And then, so after that, I have to go back to the PlayStation 4 version, which I played first, and I had to load an older save and then have it do a manual, well, automatic upload. You can't manually upload. Ubisoft Connect works very poorly in this regard, so I would usually wait minutes and in one case an hour before it
Oh
did an
gosh.
upload because Ubisoft Connect had just failed to work.
Yeah.
So, and then you go back on PlayStation 5, you load that thing, do the action for 1 or 3 trophies, depending on how many I had saved on that save. And then you go back on PlayStation 4 again, load an older game, and have it again, upload the save. Then go on PlayStation 5, do it. So it took me, I don't know, 2 hours and something to actually get the platinum.
Well, I suppose that's still a lot better than 180 or 200 hours, though.
Yeah, definitely.
And you did get the platinum. I'm sort of convinced, that I'm going to come back in 2 years to the PlayStation Zador, and there's going to be like people are going to be on like 4,000 platinums because all this auto popping's been going on, and like these remasters and all this stuff. Like eventually it'll have to stop, surely. But I wonder what the number will be. How many games are going to be
Yeah.
like this? Now,
I
why
just
don't we?
wonder if I'll ever like get to 1,000 platinums because I've slowed down my
Well,
rate
look,
so much.
we could get you there in an afternoon if you want. Now, you
Yeah.
wouldn't like it, but
Well, no, I'm not gonna play Ratalaika games.
no, look, look, more power to you. There's some other ones there too. I can show you even worse
Yeah.
than that. But look, let's move across to Hitman 3. Why don't we, before we get into the game? And I know we're running a little bit long. Is that okay? Are we still within parameters?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, no, that's plenty. Why don't we start with the back end first then? Because there will be people here that are interested in the save for the auto popping. Is this a much easier experience to transfer saves and things like this?
Yeah. So Hitman 3, when it came out at launch time, they had this website which you connect your old save, your profile rather, because the profile is saved on their servers,
Hmm.
and then it should work. But at launch, the website would work for some of the people. Uh, it would work for some of the people and actually upload the save, and then for some people it just didn't work
Hmm.
at all, either when you're connecting to the website or when you're actually doing the save transfer. And now some people, if they didn't start up the game first, because
Hmm.
you'd want to have a good time on your platinum or something, so they didn't start up the game.
Sounds shocked.
And if you then did the save connect on the website before starting up the game, you wouldn't be able to connect to the game. It would just do this infinite connecting thing and then just say profile not found and not let you play online.
Yeah.
And I was one of those people because I was like, I'm gonna upload first because that's what they said on their fact to do. Oh, I should have started the game apparently first. So I was stuck for a week waiting for actually be able to play the game.
Hmm. Hmm. I
And then
remember.
once I did get to play the game, it actually did auto pop all of the trophies it was supposed to auto pop from Hitman 1 and 2,
Hmm.
except for the score and sniper assassin based, well, silent assassin based trophies for sniper assassin, because those are not saved on the servers.
Uh,
They are leaderboards, and leaderboards are reset when you go to Hitman 3, so it can't auto pop that. But they did actually acknowledge that in the fact they said that those won't auto pop.
so you
Everything
okay,
else
okay.
is
Yeah.
supposed to auto pop. However, some people have had problems with the trophies auto popping.
Yeah.
Now I'll mention Mindy at this point because Mindy had all of her trophies auto pop except for one,
Yeah.
and it's one that can't be repeated. There's a topic about it on BSN profiles. Even if you redo the requirements, the trophy won't auto pop.
Oh
So
wow.
they're waiting for a fix on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it like it's an interesting list because obviously the base list for the platinum or whatever is all Hitman 3, but the DLC is obviously, requiring you to either have a save, from the previous games or, play them again, I suppose. I know there was some server closures or something on the earlier ones. Is if you play it this way, you can 100% them without a save though? Like you could legitimately play all these DLCs and still 100% this game if you started it today? That's
Yeah,
possible,
so
isn't it?
Hitman 3, you're supposed to be able to play all of those things on Hitman 3 itself and still
Yeah,
unlock the trophies. But I've also read reports about people not getting those trophies if
as
they're
well. Yeah.
playing them on Hitman 3.
Hmm.
Some people do, some don't, because I don't know. EO Interactive just fucked up something here.
Yes, well, it's their last one. They're getting out now. They're getting the money and running. No,
Yeah.
I'm sure that's not the. I'm sure that's not the case. But look, I want to ask you now because I know you love this series, and it's a stealth-based series or whatever. And I played a little bit of all, the more recent titles, dipping in and out. It's not the sort of game that I find these sort of games very frustrating. You need a lot of patience or whatever else, and you need to really pay attention or whatever. And I think I always saw it like that. And then recently I heard an IGN journalist talk about it, and he broke it down, and he's like, it's not a stealth, like there's stealth and there is this, but it's a puzzle game. That's what it is. It's just the whole game is a puzzle, and you're working your way through it. And I thought about you because I know you like these sort of puzzle games and things as well. And I thought that it made more sense to me like that. Do you see these games as that, like this overarching, that it is a puzzle game, I suppose, more than an action thriller, whatever they like to label it?
Yeah, so in game you have these challenges, accomplishments, about like killing a character in a certain way or having characters meet up, then killing both of them at the same time.
Hmm.
Those I would say are very puzzle-like because you'll be like, how do I make this happen? How do these characters meet up and then this character kills the other character? Like these are things that you have to figure out or just look online. But yeah, I would count those as puzzles. But if you're just like aiming to only kill a character, and it doesn't matter what way, then I would just only call it a stealth game, or just some people go guns in placing. So
Okay, I'm gonna ask you some selfish questions here. How difficult is this game compared to the first and second one? Is it on a similar level, or easier, or harder?
I would say it kind of felt easier, because now you got to actually start with all the stuff you unlocked on Hitman 2.
Yes.
Because in Hitman 2, it's just reset all your progress from Hitman 1. You
Hmm.
had to redo all of it. But in this one, if you had the Hitman 2 save, you don't have to redo any of it. You get to have all your stuff. So you can have your homing briefcase, you can have your crowbar, etc., and start with those in a level, which already makes them so much easier. But I would also say the levels themselves were kind of easier. Um, my favorite, of course, is the one that's in England, the Agatha Christie style one with
Yes.
the murder mystery.
Yeah.
That is my favorite, but some other people are just like boring
Yeah.
because it's an easy and small area. It feels like there was this manor level in Hitman Contracts,
Hmm.
and it reminds me of that one. I like that one in that game as well.
Yeah. Okay, I like one thing that I've heard repeatedly said about this, which is why I picked it up, although I haven't started yet because I wanted to speak to you first, is that the story is very good in this. That you could play this game for the story, which I think is a little bit different. I know there is an arching story in the first and the second one, but these people that I know they play highly narrative games, and I was surprised they made that comment. Do you think that's a fair sort of a comment? And if that is the case, can you just start with the third one for the story, or do you really need to go back?
So I would say technically you don't have to play the other ones, except for the fact that characters here refer to things that have happened in the previous two,
Mm.
and you would maybe be a bit lost. But there is a recap video in the game itself. You can just look at that and then play, because that has the important points. So if you don't want to play Hitman 1 and 2, you could just play this.
Okay.
Whereas all the other older Hitmans, Blood Money, Absolution, etc., none of them are required knowledge for this because they've kind of rebooted the game.
So one of the things that has always, put me off about these games is that I like the idea of stealth. I like the idea of myself doing some stealth or whatever. I think it's pretty cool. I respect that it takes time, but look, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do the run and gun method, like I play every game. Is that a viable method in this game? Can I sort of, go in guns blazing for another word, or if that happens early on, am I going to get through this, or am I really going to be forced into trying to play stealthy?
Well, there definitely are ways to do all levels guns blazing. Um, there are videos, I think, of people doing them that way. But if you want to actually get the platinum, then you'll actually have to do some stuff stealthily because you can't get some of the kills if you just alert all the enemies.
Yeah, yeah.
um, there was some person who accomplished something in the Sapienza level, I think. So
Hmm.
he killed everyone on that map, and then he tracked all of their bodies to this giant freezer in the level. And like that, and that took what, 6 hours of in-game time.
Yes. Yeah.
Some
Ah.
people are crazy.
Yeah, well, it's got that feel to it, doesn't it? Like the open. Yeah, I know, I know. Yeah, people love their platform games or whatever else when they get in them. So, look, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this game, Zador. I'm still undecided. But can you give me, you played the games, you've platinum them or whatever. You're a bit of a master, I think, on these. Can you give me? I'm a total noob at these games. What do I need to know? Are there any tips you can give me? Not so much for the platinum, I suppose, but just to get through this thing. Although if they can help for trophies as well, I'll take them.
Um, well, play on lowest difficulty if you don't want the
Ooh, is that an
additional
option? Is it?
challenges.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Hitman 2 you had to actually play on the hardest difficulty for some of the trophies. In this one, you don't have to. You can play on the easiest one. So
Yeah.
that removes basically all cameras. You don't have to care about surveillance.
Mm.
Guards are easier, and you have unlimited saves. Well, as many slots as there are. On the higher difficulties, you're actually limited to these, like one slot and stuff. And then, of course, abuse the Hitman mode thing where you can see where enemies and stuff are. Make liberal use of that. Um,
So there's some
and all,
accessibility features then. I see. Okay.
yeah. So, and always complete a random run, as in just don't care about any of the trophies and stuff. Do
Yeah.
the initial run. Maybe first look at the challenges thing and maybe do a few of the random ones, like if there's a throw a cocaine prick at an enemy, just do that one. Get the easy EXP, complete the level, and then you get to actually bring your own stuff, and that'll make all of them easier.
Yeah.
That's only if you really care about like completing the platinum or something. Because if you just want to get through it, then just do it once and
Yeah.
that's it.
I want to pick up on that though, because this is what in games I hate. I hate having to do the same thing again because for whatever reason, whether it be like I don't know, the system goes off or a glitch or you die and you have to do it again. These games are that, aren't they? You could get all the way through the map. There's no checkpoints and it could go wrong, and then you're forced into restarting the whole thing. Is that how this works?
Well, it does have a autosave system, but it autosaves so rarely that it's basically useless.
Yeah.
I would suggest doing manual saves.
Mm-hmm.
They
Oh, you
used to
can do
have
that.
this problem where if you saved and then loaded, it would kind of mess up challenges and stuff.
Yep.
But I haven't had that since Hitman 1, and it was even fixed in Hitman 1. So I would recommend saving and loading.
Yeah.
You can even save before you kill someone, load, then do a different kill in one playthrough, basically. That way you'll get a lot of challenges done in one.
Mm.
If you can like set up multiple things, like if your target is next to an explosive barrel or something, but also under a thing, you could just save, drop the thing on them, load, and then explode the barrel. If those are challenges that you can do,
Mm.
uh, makes it a lot easier because you need to get the max level for all the maps.
It's funny. I sort of think this game would be perfect for I'm Styling on Your Bro because he likes to micromanage everything. And I know that he's, brushing his dog's teeth at the moment in his latest PS3 game for God knows what reason. But I'm sort of hoping that he'll jump into this game first so that I can get his feel for it. But it's always felt like that to me, that there's so much going on, I suppose. That's what puts me off. I sort of already know the answer to this question, I think, but for someone that hasn't played any of these, it's quite an expensive prospect potentially to get into this because you need to buy 1, 2, and 3. Is it worth it? Do you think? Is the whole trilogy worth it to play?
Yeah, so I feel it is because of the sandbox nature of those maps, and some of them are really, really nice ones.
Yeah.
Um, but as you said, it gets really expensive because if you haven't played since the first one, then you start now, you'll have to pay a lot of extra money because Hitman 1 and 2 are full price now
Mm. It's
with
clever marketing.
all their DLC. So it's a lot of money spent if you don't wait for the sales.
Yeah.
Because there were these topics on PSN profiles about how this is the most expensive game to 100%. It isn't though.
No.
But uh, I'm like, yeah, if you haven't played the previous ones, then it is expensive.
Mm.
But blaming Hitman 3 itself for that is kind of stupid. Sure, they could have left the trophies out, the 100% DLC lists, but they still want to, get sales, so they do that. And they've done it, it was successful in Hitman 2, so they did it again here because people want to carry over the progress.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah. No.
Um, But yeah, I would say if they're on sale, if you don't want to pay full price, then at least I would say it's worth it. But you can also just play Hitman 3 itself, do those trophies, then wait for the others to be on sale and then do them then.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll be free again
Yeah.
at some point.
Well, that's my definite plan of attack. So, look,
Yeah.
Zador, I've really enjoyed this conversation. We've talked about quite a few big games today, listeners. A lot of games that we've covered, or whatever else. Many, or in fact, all of these games of high quality. That you'll find some value in them. Assassin's Creed, Yakuza 7, Hitman 3. These are games that all run wonderfully well on the Xbox Series X. Zador, you've already shown an interest now to letting go of trophies. When will I see you coming across to the other side?
Mm, when you buy the console for me and ship it here.
Oh, really? Are you that far away? Are you okay?
Yeah.
I thought perhaps you were moving closer to the line of experiencing the other side.
Well, if I ever wanna play the Game Pass games, my father has them. So
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
I was visiting my parents and he put the Game Pass thing on and he's like, "Are there any games here you'd like to play?" And I looked at them. I was like, "Yeah, there's Tell Me Why and stuff," but I was like, "Not now because we have to leave."
Is he
Yeah,
enjoying it? Is he playing it or?
yeah. He plays a lot of Flight Simulator.
Yeah.
It's mainly what he does.
It's an well, I mean, it's a cheap way to do that in a way compared to the PC
Yeah.
you would probably need. I was going to say expensive, but yeah, no, I like that. Well, look, maybe one day, but look, I haven't given up hope, or given out on hope that there'll be a Game Pass of some sort on Sony at some point in the future, one day. So we'll just have to wait and see.
We'll see.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We will see. But look, I do want to take the opportunity, sir, to thank you so much for your work with the Discord. It's been wonderful to get to know you better, and of course, I look forward to staying, in contact with you. But it's so nice to hear someone talk passionately about games, not just trophies or whatever else. And the games you talk about, you clearly love, and you put huge amounts of time in. We touched on Assassins. People platinum this game in 120 hours, God knows how. But you put in this extra time, to see everything and do everything. And I think that's a wonderful thing. I think that's what gaming, ultimately is. The other stuff is window dressing or whatever else. And I wish you a long, happy gaming future. And I look forward to continuing to talk to you well into the future beyond the show. Thank you so much for coming on this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So once again, a huge thanks to ZadorVp for dropping in for a chat. All things Assassin's Creed. We did dwell on there a little, didn't we, listeners? But it's an odyssey of a game, so why not? And then to hear a little bit about Hitman 3. Of course, so much gaming talk in the earlier part, including a little bit of love on the Twin Mirror that we threw some light on last week. There are some amazing games we've already shown in this episode. Definitely jump on them. You're going to have a great time. Now, we're a little behind in the Platinum shoutouts, so I'm going to get to them today. We have 35 in total, 35 shoutouts to get out. So that is a lot, community. Thank you for submitting them. Of course, if you want to get a shoutout in the last couple of shows, you know how to do it. I know Sony are pulling the communities very shortly off the PS4, but I believe they're still there for the next week or two, so you can use that or the Discord. But look, let's jump in. And our first one to start us off today, Boston George, number 204, A Rose in the Twilight. Very dark and intriguing puzzler. I don't know what to say other than play it if it's in your backlog. It is quick and unique experience. I've never heard of this one, George, so thanks for throwing some light on another possible gem. Vigilant Crow, Plat 50. Oh, it's a milestone, sir. Congratulations. Plat number 50, Void Bastards. Average first-person shooter, but the sarcastic humour was good for a laugh. I've never played this myself, but I heard a lot about this from the former Game Stuff and new Loot Bros host Kalai. I know she's a big advocate of this game, or was a few months ago when she was playing it. It's good to see it re-emerging, so... Plat number 51, Stranded Deep. Decent survival sandbox, quite a bit of jank to laugh at, with pigs often deciding to run underwater and live with the fish. This is wonderful. This is from an Australian studio, actually up in North there, in Brisbane, I believe. And yes, I understand it's a little janky and it's had some issues. I was sort of hoping that perhaps it had been patched. I know one of our Patreon backers picked this up, and I did as well, because it's important to support small indie devs, particularly in this fine country of Australia. And number 52, Witcher 3. Lore was fascinating, but the gameplay felt very bare bones. It's funny, isn't it? We touched a little on Witcher 3 today in comparison with Assassins, and yeah, it's interesting. I don't think you're alone in that feeling there, so although a masterpiece of a game, some may say the last true masterpiece CD Projekt Red may ever have. One Up Wonders, Platinum 1045. Wow, that's crazy, sir. In Rays of the Light. I know this is I don't know the developer of this, but I know it was published by Sometimes You. He said it's something, a bit of a walking sim, I believe. So, and I think worthy of a play from what I gathered. So, So I think maybe perhaps we should. I'm thinking it's eluded me now. That game where you walk super slow. You do the Michael Jackson walk for a trophy too, I believe, and a bunch of other random stuff. But I'm sure it was a PS Plus game at some point. But perhaps this one, in Rays of the Light, to check out as well. Mr. Tam, number 110, Pick a Pix Classic. It was fun, kind of nostalgic, honestly, since nonograms were my main commuting game for a while. Because I was curious, I added up all of my times and it came out to less than a day at 23 hours, 26 minutes and 41 seconds, or less than 10 minutes each on average. Not bad if you ask me. It's funny, sir, I never had the attraction of these games. I think there's a lot of nostalgia in them as well, and I understand that puzzleistic sort of element, to them that people just get entranced by. So I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I know there are so many of them as well. So there's actually one, I believe you have a Switch, and again, I'm going to put my foot in it. I'm going to say Murder in Paradise, but it might be something like this, and it's actually a murder mystery, but all the mini games, I suppose, or the side elements of these pick-a-picks type things. So could be worth a look there for you. So if you're so inclined. I'm styling on your bro, and look, he's got plenty for us this week, listener, so I'll get out of the way. Number 244, Goat Simulator Ps3. It was great to have control of my favourite barnyard animal again. Ghost Sim is the penultimate game I will play on PS3, and how apropos, since it's the game that started my simulation addiction. Flappy Goat frame rates drops really brought my blood to a simmer, but knocked it out before I boiled over. I just love running around licking everything in the game and collecting the adorable goat statues made of solid 24K gold. Unlike the cheap Chinese plastic statues AAA publishers sell in special editions for hundreds of dollars. Well, that's fair play, sir, fair play. Definitely a must play if you've never taken the trip to Goatville. You're never going to convince me to play this game, sir. I have no interest in this Flappy Goat banana business. And I did play a little bit of the game, but I can't get my head around these wonka-tated controls that are supposed to be fun, but are really just aggravating. Number 245, Train Sim World. Well, it's a monster. Due to a list of buggy trophies longer than a freight train, you need a locomotive action and willingness to let your life go off the rails to get this platinum. To Hopstreck, good balance of progress and avoiding fatigue. I'm just going to butcher this. I suppose bankruptcy as well. I have been scooping up DLC as it goes on a big sale. This methodology has allowed me to slowly chip away and not derail my motivation. Many may find this game an ostentatious platinum choice, but I selected it purely to fulfill my obsession with ferroequinology. Ferroequinology, sir. Is that a word? Are you having fun here? I'm having logistical nightmare. With the Plat and 6-23, 6 of 23 DLC complete after 309 hours, many would consider this the end of the line. However, I need no kick in the caboose to continue the journey of completing both Train Sim World 2020 trophy sets. Jesus, you're going to do both of them. Also, as my first PS5 Platinum trophy, it was so very underwhelming that the trophy never did actually pop. Only the penultimate trophy popped. Well, that just says it all, doesn't it? At least it's not premature, but look, better luck on your next stack, I suppose. And then he's got here, I think this is Platinum number 245, or when you're smashing them out like he does, it's hard to keep track, I know. Pinkman Plus. This is wonderful too. I must say, I highly advise warming up with the Crash Bandicoot 4. This is a highly challenging game in which you must use flatulence in your favour. I nearly bit off more than I can chew, but I toughened it out and got the job done. Far from a typical rattle-like a stinker, pun intended, I'm sure, I highly recommend this precision platformer. Of course, a rattle-like a game from a few weeks ago. It's about a 20 or 30 minute fight. It's fun as well. And look, why not have more games that harness the power of the fart? I mean, it's at home on the PlayStation. Number 247, Control, PS5. Wow, what a perfect way to initiate what will be a fruitful relationship with my new partner. This game's frame rate was as smooth as a silk bedsheet and had some of the most enjoyable gameplay I've experienced in quite some time. It felt great to have a game I was stoked to play actually bloody deliver for a change, instead of forcing me to drink from a chalice of torment. I tell you what, these are first world problems, sir. There with your PS5. I had no idea this was going to delve into astral projection, a topic in which I find fascinating. If Stranger Things plus Infamous plus Uncharted 3 shooting plus Mirror's Edge dystopian minimalistic architecture had a child, this game is what I'd call said child to be like. Simply put, the perfect remedy to a AAA industry that has no quality control anymore. I tell you what, you should be working for them, sir. You really, you wouldn't fit that on the box, but maybe IGN could throw that over their review down the bottom. It's wonderful, wonderful word choice, sir. Number 248, Marquette PS5. Of course, this is free if you have PS Plus and a PS5. Of course, it is also free if you only have a PS4 and PS Plus, but you'll have to do a little bit of a work to get that game for free because, Sony's not going to help you if you haven't got a PS5. What? That's not your fault? Well, get with the times. Whose fault is it? Surely not Sony's. This has had a banger of a soundtrack. Plat was very easy thanks to a solidly produced guide by One Up Wonders. Sadly, the speedrun trophies prevented me from understanding any of the story, as cutscenes needed skipping. I know it seems like I'm cranking out a lot of Plats. It sure does as we read them here, sir. But right before an epic climax, you go hard and fast. 250 is impending, and of biblical proportion it shall be. And of course, he did ask me to maybe spread these out, but why would I spread out quality like this, sir, when I could shoot it across the listeners' ears now, deep into their ear canals? 100% Mum hid my game. Oh, I'm glad you got to this. This is without a doubt the greatest troll game ever created. I found it challenging to find some of the hiding spaces because I was a perfect angel and never had my game hidden as a young boy. It must have meant that whole final scene just didn't have any traction for you at all, so it's wonderful. Denial, isn't it? 249 City Skylines. It's another beast. This may or may not be a game. This may or may not be a game you'd enjoy, but I highly recommended it. Been a long time since I played a city builder, and this didn't disappoint. I was so addicted to it that I constructed a city and blitzed most trophies in about a week. The remaining time was spent idling, like all good Platinum games. Of the 264 hours spent, only about 55 to 60 was playing the game. 264. It's good use of electricity, sir. Congratulations. I flipped the game on to save it today, and right after I did, the night cycle swapped, thus causing my platinum to pop due to reaching 1001 nights past. I'd say it was very lucky, but when you've been hunting as long as I have, you get a... Sorry, there's a page turn. What a wonderful sentence. Don't you love it when the ego sort of, steps in pace with reality of the real life and you construct a sentence of this nature. But when you have been hunting as long as I have, you get a sixth sense. Of course you do, sir. Look, and then here's number 250, and you're a legitimate trophy hunter, listeners, when you put in a bullshit platinum for a major milestone. Everyone knows to do that, don't they? Your old buddies, they give you a pat on the back. Yeah, you're a legitimate gamer, all your serious stuff, but just put the spam in on the big numbers. Don't put the spam in everywhere, just on the big numbers, yeah? Yeah, we'll make a joke of all those spammers this way. Number 250, Barbie and her sister's puppy rescues. Not a fan of horror bulldog puns. Please do not continue. Read on and get mad. I don't give a shit, sir. Normally for brunettes, not so much blonde. Though when it comes to Barbie, I'm rather fond. Such a treat when she plays fetch with my stick. Like a loving little puppy she really likes to lick. Saving strays from hedge mazes or even the sewer, I guess you can call me the puppy rescuing Führer. Celebrating this moment like Wall Street yuppies. To sum it all up, I simply love puppies. Oh, sir, that is so cute. Well done. Moving on, finally. It was like a whole little segment there, wasn't it? But he's been busy. Congratulations, sir, on number 250. And we'll see you, I don't know when we'll see you. 300, I suppose, next. Gazdays 11, number 80, Concrete Genie. Really nice little game, actually. Would recommend playing. The painting can be a little frustrating with motion controls, but it doesn't detract from the charm. And in fact, this is a sort of a double shared part, I suppose, because Dino Raw for number 1500 also with Concrete Genie. And he goes on to say, this is a fabulous game for all ages. My 6-year-old and I had so much fun with this game, and I recommend it to anyone that has thought about playing it. Congratulations on what is a massive milestone, sir, at 1500, and I'm sure you'll race to the 2000 with ease. EDJ 3DG. Number 73, Celeste. Originally played it on Xbox when it first came out. Replaying it again was still as satisfying as the first time. Will say though, the Xbox controller made it feel so much better compared to the DualSense. It's actually a travesty, sir. I have not played this game yet, and I know that it has some very good accessibility options to make it a lot easier if you so need, which I definitely do need. So I need to get on it because I hear it also has a pretty deep and moving little story as well. MZ Nitro, it's a big one. Number 28, Ghost Recon Wildlands. Can't believe it took me nearly 4 years to finally plat the game. Feels good to get it though, but it is also currently working through the Fallen Ghost DLC for that sweet 100%. Congratulations, sir. That game is a massive grind. The map is absolutely huge, I know. And then all that DLC, I think it was the first one you worked on there. There's so much to getting the fans or whatever you have to do, turning the people. It's so many little things, monotonous. So the 100% in that game is no easy feat. So well done on your mission there. ZadorVp, our guest for today. Number 488, as we talk, Chicken Police EU. Great game with a couple of fantastic references to the Police Squad series and Naked Gun films. Wish I hadn't waited so long to play it, but at least I finally did. And if you were at all interested in that game, then definitely jump on it. I guarantee you're going to have a laugh or three. Number 489 and 490 for Zador, We Were Here and We Were Here Too. Fun online co-op puzzle games that require you to use a microphone to tell your online partner puzzle solutions found on your side, or alternatively, get puzzle solutions from the other player if you are the one solving them. Played with my brother, and we'll play the third one at a later time since it's longer. A fourth game in the series was recently announced as well, so looking forward to that one too. JB Trophy Hunter 1975 drops in. Number 276, Lost Grimoires Stolen Kingdom. It's an Art Mundi plat. Congratulations there, sir. Ponder Stibbons, number 236, Miles Morales PS4 stack. Thought I'd better get a plat while they're still being read out. This will most likely be my last shout out. Farewell. I tip my digital hat to you, sir. It sounds like you are having perhaps the most fun you've had in gaming for a long time, and I'm glad you stuck with us through to the end and allowed us to keep you company. I hope you have the most amazing time still to come in the games, both retro, modern, current day, and future. Reaper Veteran 86, number 175, and the 10,000th trophies. Oh, sir, this game. Oh, thank you that somebody is finally playing this game. What a game. What a game indeed. 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim. I can't think of a better game for these two milestones. In one word, perfection. It really is, sir. It really is. It's an amazing blend of real-time strategy, VN, a little walking sim. Well, I want to say puzzles, but not really puzzles, I suppose. But just some beautiful 2D art style as well, and music to die for. It's great to see someone play that as well. Well done, sir. I know many of us are out there. Number 176, Autobahn Police Simulator 2. Bad game with hilarious graphics. Falls for me in the so bad it's good category. That's the most important category of all, sir. It's wonderful. I'll note that down. Number 177, The Long Reach. Short but enjoyable horror adventure. Number 178, Intruders Hide and Seek. The last of my 4 birthday plats. Short hide yourself from the baddies adventure with a dark story twist. Well, happy birthday, sir. And 4 plats on your birthday. That's no small achievement at all. Well done. And of course, Intruders Hide and Seek can be played in VR or without VR. It's a good game. It's definitely worth a look. There are 2 stacks of that as well if you ever feel the need, so an NA and an EU. Number 179, it's the Jigsaw Glass Masquerade. Number 180, Gris, beautiful 2D game that reminds me a lot of Journey. Number 181, Road to Ganadong. I've never heard of this game, so I will look into it. Number 182, Glass Masquerade 2 Illusions, an even more fleshed out sequel to the Jigsaw game. Number 183, Crossing Souls. Number 184, The Bard's Tale remastered and re-snarkled. I don't know what a re-snarkle is, but look, I'm willing to try it at least once. Probably with my mouth closed and not swallowing. I yield to no one. Number 119, We Were Here Too, PS4 Platinum, number 52. Congratulations on the co-op Platinum. That game's getting a lot of love lately. I'm looking forward to giving that a try very shortly, I believe. Ed the Shed, number 2014. He comes in with number 201 and 202, St. Patrick's Daybreak, the NA and EU stack. And for our final shout out, we made it, listeners. I know it was a trek today. I think it's a new poster, and I'm going to butcher your name or her name. I apologize. Lila Pula Puju. It's a great name. It sounds like I'm sorry, but it does sound like an act that I've. Well, look, I'm not going to say that I've engaged in it, but it definitely sounds like I'll take a little Apollo Puju and a $5 change, thanks. And number 58, Control. Well, look, it's a quality plat as well. Let's hope you're of legal age. Otherwise, we'll just skim over that completely. Thank you, as always, for allowing us to spend a little bit of your time, both myself and the guest. It is always a pleasure. I'd like to thank all our Patreons at every level, but particular thanks to our producers, ZadorVp, MZ Nitro, and Ready to eBeg for staying with us till the end. You will have noticed that Patreons are now paused for the show, so you can freely drop out at any time, or it will drop you out at the end of this month. Still a couple of shows to come. Have a great week. Enjoy whatever you're gaming. Drop in a shout out if you so wish in the last few weeks. I look forward to speaking soon. May the platinums and trophies, achievos, continue to fly every which way and land on your account.